to Cloud Talk, the show. Hey, Larry, how you doing?
Hey, doing well.
Oh, doing great. I hear you're in new digs these days.
I'm in New York.
You're in New York, so I'm in this. I can
Yeah.
say in the second city in Chicago. So things have happened. It's true. You've moved. That's okay.
Um,
Welcome to the big city.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Enjoying it.
That's good. That's good. So yeah, we have a crazy graphic up here to start off with that you shared with me, which is pretty good. Essentially showing what happens when you're an enterprise and you're trying to go to the cloud.
Right. That's what we get to do. We get to
Yes,
be the cloud architects and the the developers that try to help people get into
that's
the
true.
cloud.
We play all of those roles sometimes, don't we?
Right.
We're pretty much, the guys, poor guys with the swords, or fortunately, who we are not, are usually those guys there lying dead. You see, the project
Yes.
managers. Notice that they're lying dead. Everyone else is still alive. I don't know. Is
The
that
fight goes
is
on.
that a
The fight goes
message?
on. I don't know. I don't know.
Let's see. Meanwhile, down below, the startup tweet, 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 tweet. Oh, the little bird.
Yes. Greenfield is always easier, but in the cloud, it's a lot different than
Yeah.
even just straight up greenfield code
Yeah.
because the choices that you get to make are so kind of fundamental.
True enough. And speaking of choices, so some people are like not exactly giving us choices over here, and I just want to share you something real quick. Let me go find it on my items. Really, I have my search over here, looking all over the place, and I might fast forward this just to get it to go. But you've seen this
Yes.
article, right?
Oh wow, yes. Search is um, choice is good. When you're not given a choice, that's generally a bad thing.
It's generally a bad thing. So here we go. Just basically to do business with our the big boy here. Your tech providers needs to you can't be building service on the rivals, which is sort of doesn't make sense because technically speaking, and the system is that agnostic. They wouldn't know whether or not you're giving that business or not. Now, unless Walmart had its own service, maybe like I don't know, Walmart Clouds or something. Is there such a thing? I don't think so.
I've not heard of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's Google, unless Microsoft somehow in the back end says, oh, "Hey, Walmart, we'll make you a deal." I don't know who could have done that, but it just seems to me like they did it not because Microsoft or any other nefarious conspiracy, but it's more likely, well, we're a store and they're a store. You're using our stuff. You better use our stuff. Well, that's
Well,
what
I
it
mean
sounds
that
like.
Yeah, that would be like saying, you've got to buy Walmart gas for your Walmart car and eat Walmart food. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
I know.
I mean, that's just, uh, I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
can't understand. I mean, and one part of me kind of does understand. Okay, they're like, well, don't support our enemies, but they're not really enemies. I mean, they're competitors, and
Yes,
it's
they have to take
business
a
is
page from
different.
Microsoft and Google on this stage. You realize
Yes,
that, and we were going to talk about that. Essentially, none of them care if you're using bits of the other pieces. In fact, they promote
right.
it. It's like, hey, you got a bit there, you can work with us. You got a bit there. In fact, not only can you work with us, we'll help you work with us. Remember that our other show where we had that stuff that where they created stuff for Visual Studio, for example, to work really nicely.
Yes.
Remember
to,
that?
to pull it in and actually make it seamless so that you could actually choose the better horse and not just the one
The one that they gave you. It's like
that they
basically
gave you. Right.
exactly. So that and I think really that's the whole point of it. So Amazon knew it. Amazon could have easily said, "Oh, they're Microsoft. Blah, 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 blah. We're not gonna help them because we're the big boy. So why should we?" Right?
Right.
But no, this is not the way of the world anymore. So that's the important thing. And I mean, technically speaking, it's probably these guys right here.
Right.
They got themselves several huge dragons up there trying to get over. There'll be dragons in your systems trying to get over.
Oh,
Oh man,
man.
so yikes. All right, we have a actual topic today, though. I believe. Yes, we do.
An
Um,
actual topic.
yes. So we're talking about platform as a service versus infrastructure as a service, IaaS versus
Yes.
AAS. So hold on a second. Let me see what I got over here. I got a little picture of it over here somewhere. Let me go to get that picture. Yes. Okay. So down over here you can see Another graphic we found over here. There we're showing the platform as a service, and that's what it is basically. It's like you can see all our favorite players, and we have infrastructure as a service. Those are the players in that space over here.
Right.
But let's describe first what is the difference. Larry, go ahead while I get a picture up here ready. Tell us what is a platform as a service versus an infrastructure as a
Certainly,
service.
certainly. Down on the land, down on the earth, down below is on-prem, right? You own it all. You manage it all. It's you. Infrastructure as a service is when you're running your software on somebody else's machines. Okay,
Yes.
that's kind of that cloud thing. You're running your software on someone else's machines. The
Yes.
difference, infrastructure as a service, you own the operating system, you own the middleware, you own the runtime, you own everything that's in there. Um, they just are giving you hardware. That's
Right.
infrastructure as a
Right.
service. Platform as a service is when you don't kind of own the operating system.
Mm,
So you you get to use IaaS, but you don't own the IaaS, the operating system that's running IaaS or
right.
Apache or whatever you want to
Exactly. Someone
host
else
your
is
pages on.
controlling that. Basically, you're using the platform, so to speak,
Right,
but you don't care about what's underneath the platform. Essentially, the
right.
infrastructure under the platform.
So infrastructure as a service, you care about Patch Tuesday. Platform as a service, you don't.
Aha. Oh,
Someone else does it for you.
aha. So this is the case of like another case of like the infrastructure as a service likely is that big dragon that we saw earlier.
Yes.
Is when you're trying to move stuff over, you're trying to move stuff as a service. Now, why would someone probably do infrastructure as a service?
So infrastructure as a service is kind of the gateway drug, right? That's you get the no, I'm serious. Now, you get that dragon
Yeah.
out of your building.
Yes.
Okay, you move that whole dragon just as is
Right.
into somebody else's data center,
Right.
and so you don't have to worry about data center. You don't have to worry about any of that part. You
Right.
still maintain control, um, but the joy, the benefit that you get is that you're not limited to the physical hardware that you have anymore, and
Ha.
so you can scale up. So you can
Ah.
you can throw another CPU, throw some more RAM on it, just
Right.
by you know moving a slider.
Right. 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 Right.
Well, and paying money, but
Exactly. So let's say, like in my case over here, and oh yeah, so like I know you spent your dollar, but look how I'm doing. I'm chewing up all my money
oh,
here.
you're chewing it up. Yeah,
I'm chewing it up. I'm just crazy with my resources over here. So this is the case over here. It's like you come over here and you pick a machine like these VMs, which were by the way chewing up all my money.
right,
And in this VM, I can go in here, for example, and I could go change something about it pretty
right.
much quickly. I
Hmm.
could perhaps add more RAM or add more disks. I could fix its size right over here. Right over
Right.
here.
You
I
can
can I
give it
can move
more
things around.
cores. You can bump it up to really obscene
Yes.
levels. I mean, if you go down to the bottom, it's like I don't know what, $1,000 an hour, $1,500 an hour.
It'll probably warn me if I'm trying to go down. It's like, well, you're going down, you might lose something or something. It might
Yeah.
probably warn me. But this is basically where how easy it is, and this is the case, by the way. We're showing Microsoft right now only because I'm just lamenting my money loss here. By the way, Google hasn't hardly cost me anything lately, and AWS is also being very nice. That's because I'm not sticking a VM on their systems. But meanwhile, the idea over here, right, is that I can add, I can remove. However, I'm in charge of it. So if this needs
Right.
updating, I'll get like a little message when I'm opening it up. Hey, by the way, I need an update. You want to update? And maybe I'll say no. And then maybe I'll be in
Right.
at risk of whatever, right? And oh, what
Right.
else do I have to do in this? I'm in charge of not just this, but I'm in charge of the network too, right? So,
Right. Yeah. You're in charge of the network. You have to connect the machines. You have to, basically run the wires, do your
right.
load balancer. If you add a new machine, you have to install your software across on it.
Mm,
So you're scaling out. So infrastructure as a service lets you scale up easily, right?
right.
You just flip the switches. But to scale out, you have to do all the work.
Oh man. Right. So
So
yeah, so
platform as a service, you don't.
that's
They
true.
do that for you.
That makes sense. So basically, so it's almost like a battle in some cases, and I have a little battle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold on a second. Let me close this up here. Just a second. I have a little battle. Uh, concept over here. So we have PaaS versus IaaS. Ding, fight.
Ding.
Let's go.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Which
Hold on a
one's
second.
best?
Wait a minute. Hold on. These are the legacy apps fighting over here. No, this isn't exactly it. It's really more like this actually. Yes, there we go. Fast, furious fighting for between these two things. Because technically speaking, the IaaS and platform service, these are powerful, regardless of whether or not one can do something better than the other. In the end of the day, you get
Right.
a very powerful ability to make this happen. So, we can.
Right. Either way, either one is a good choice. Either one gets you off your on-prem. Either one lets you scale with some work, but it lets you scale in a way that you can't if you're just doing your stuff on-prem.
Right. So, let's take a look. I like the concept we talked over here. It's like essentially when you have PaaS. All right, you basically you had your horse, and now you're running that horse inside a jumbo jet or something like that. Or not? I'm
Right.
sorry, not passive. If you're IAS, you're putting in a
Right.
jumbo jet.
IS.
You still have to fly the jumbo jet. You still have to do all that stuff. But
You have to clean up after the horse. The horse is going to,
yeah,
do what horses do.
that's right.
You have to feed the horse.
Yeah,
But
exactly. And in the other case,
infrastructure as a service can move you
the
quickly.
PaaS says, well, I'm giving you something. I'm calling it a horse. It looks like a horse, smells like a horse, but it doesn't have any of the horse things at all.
Right. You don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Well, yeah, or cars, right?
Yes.
So platform as a service, you lease a car. I mean, excuse me, infrastructure as a service, you lease a car. It's
Aha.
it's your responsibility to change the oil, to do all the maintenance and stuff like that.
Yes.
Platform as a service, you're doing one of those car shares, or you rent a
Yes.
car, and yeah, you know how we drive rental cars.
That's true enough. And but for that matter, even like the car itself, it may not be a car. You just think it's a
Oh,
car. You're getting
that's
into it.
right.
It feels like a car. It looks like a car. But for all we know, it could be like, in the future, 100 years, transporter, ching, we just
That's right.
transported you. It's like, but I like to have the experience of being in a car because, that all whizzy thing makes me all nervous. It's like, okay, fine, we will give you the user experience of being in a car. However, we're still
Right.
transporting you and taking your molecules and throwing them out into space.
We'll let you pretend to be driving, but
Yes,
we're really not going to let you drive.
yes. In fact, I have a feeling that's how cars in the futures are going to be. It's like you have the illusion of driving, but in
Yes.
reality, the master cloud's going to be watching all your stuff.
They get to override you, right? I mean, no, I mean, cars today will do that. They'll brake for you.
Ah, oh,
So what if you don't want to brake?
yes.
I mean,
That's true.
oh
That's
yeah,
right. What if you don't want to break? What if you don't want to do it? It's like, well, then basically the system will come back and tell you, it's like, well, you know what? You paid for this service. We will not allow you to not break.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
speaking of cars, I like this one you sent me. The pizza. Pizza as
pizza
a
as a
service.
service.
There we go.
Yeah, traditional on-prem.
There we
You
go.
make it yourself, pre-made. You buy it.
That's right.
It's not delivery. It's DiGiorno.
There we go.
Sorry, they've got to pay us money.
They're going to have to pay
But
us money now. That's right. Don't worry, we
but
can
that's
go.
infrastructure as
I
a
can do a
service.
bleep on this. This is like recording. I can go like bleep. Oh,
Bleep.
someone's paying us
Yeah.
money. Who could they be? Who could they be? Begins with a D.
Yeah. But then Domino's delivers, right?
Yes, that's
And
right.
and they bring it all in, and actually sometimes Domino's will deliver drinks for you, or
There we
or
go.
then you just go to the restaurant itself,
That's true.
and
So
and you don't have to worry about it. That's software as a service, and we haven't really talked about software as a
yeah,
service,
that's
but
that's that's later on. Software as a service is basically the very end game. It's like you're using I don't know, you're using Visual Studio Online or something. It's like basically instead of you writing code or like what would be a good example of that?
oh yeah, Hotmail,
Hotmail. There we go. Like a Hotmail or an
um,
Outlook, for example. It's
Outlook,
literally
yeah.
running somewhere else. It's
Oh
running on your
yeah,
browser, everything else. So it's pure software that you could have been running as a client that you're running over
right.
there. Okay, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about essentially the whole platform. So a platform could be something like Office 365 is a
Yes,
full platform.
right.
Well, WordPress would be a
WordPress,
platform.
yes. You can run WordPress on-prem.
Yes,
WordPress follows all of these because you can run it on-prem,
that's right.
you can run it in the cloud. They'll host it for you, and you've got that range of things depending on how much control you need,
Right.
and how much support you want to provide to the platform.
You got it.
So yeah, It's it's an interesting thing because people are still making these choices today. And when we first started talking about the topic, I was like, yeah, you know what? I mean, really, people should be moving to at least platform as a service, and Microsoft's pushing that way with the Office 365. And
Right.
you know, I said Hotmail before. It's not Hotmail anymore. It's Office.
It's Office, correct.
Yeah, you can tell I'm old.
Well, yeah.
But
So back in the whippersnapper days,
back in
Yep,
the day,
I remember when Hotmail used to be a business offering, and I'm like, and then then when you told me that, like, I totally missed that. I'm like, wow, you remember
yeah,
that? How did I miss that? And I realized why I missed that because when I probably heard it once, and something told me, don't do it. Back in the
yeah.
day, don't do it, leave it alone.
Right. No, you could run, you could, I mean, you didn't have to run Exchange anymore. You could,
Yeah,
Hotmail
yeah,
would run your Exchange server for you, and they were
right.
the platform, one of the early ones.
I think it was
Google
too
Mail,
early. It was
right?
probably just too early. People were just not ready for that. People were like,
Right.
we're not so sure about you guys just yet. So,
Yeah, I really want to keep well,
uh,
part of the problem is the people that are making decisions about that,
yeah,
their job is tied up in servicing these things, and it's
yeah,
hard.
indeed,
For us as consultants, it's easy because we get to make, choices and walk away from them.
true enough.
Um, and our job's not tied up in managing all of these resources. But if your job is cleaning up after a horse
Mm-hmm.
and somebody goes and gets a horseless carriage,
What you gonna
you know,
do?
what you gonna
What you
do?
gonna do? So, by the way, you probably noticed while we were talking over here, I changed our pizza to the actual thing of what it is.
Right,
This is Azure's looking at it. It's pretty much the same whether you're Azure or not. The concept of what's on premise, which is what you had originally in your data center, versus like your eventual move out, right? And the goal, at the very least, is as we're saying right now, is to come to the point of the platform, right, where you're still managing your application's data, which sort of makes sense. I
right,
mean, it sort of makes sense, especially if you're a company that wants to stay on top of things, you want to change things, you want to control things. That's basically as much control as you really, really uh, would want to have at that level. Any further than that, you're just basically just using it as like a game. You know those games that you
right,
have on the phone and stuff like that. They're actually more web games is really what they are. Just they happen to have
right,
UIs that are in front. That's really what those are, right? You're just playing a game, or you're just like, I just want to like put my expense report in there. That's fine. However, but if your expense report has business logic and all this extra stuff, well, you're probably back one step at the platform
right.
level.
And I mean, Cloud Foundry and Pivotal and companies like that make money and make their business being that you manage part,
Right.
making that so that you're that's as clean and easy to really not be bound to a single cloud as possible. So I mean that's when we're showing the Azure model here, once you get well, let me back up.
Yeah.
Infrastructure as a service, the operating system's the operating system is the operating system. Doesn't
Right.
matter which of the big contenders it's running on. I mean, Rackspace has been doing this forever, where they would give you the equivalent of the on-prem stack, but it was your physical machine. They would
Right.
put a machine in a rack for you. I mean, that's what you were doing. You were buying rack space.
Right.
And then they moved up to manage, where they'll actually run some of the, do your patching and
That's
and
right.
and do that. Um, but once you get out of infrastructure as a service and start looking at platform as a service, if you're not careful, you kind of get tied into a cloud provider,
Right.
right? Because Azure, um, the way that you put data in and out of Azure storage is somewhat different than the way that you do it in Google or in
True. True.
Amazon.
True. Yes. Yes. That's right.
And so the goal of companies that are doing things um, like the Cloud Foundry, it gives you a thin layer, an abstraction layer, or you remember the HALs, the hardware abstraction layer that you used to worry about
Correct.
with Windows.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes. Yes.
back in
Yes.
the day. Yeah, that's what this is. This is a cloud abstraction layer,
Ah,
right? Ooh, TM,
that's true.
right?
Cloud,
It's it's
cloud
a it's a
abstraction layer.
cow.
A
So
Cal versus the Hal. So
that's
Hal
the
is dead. Hal is singing Daisy and
long
basically
live
shut him
cow.
down. And now we have Cal, and Cal is like probably going to destroy us in the end for sure.
Hmm.
Speaking of destruction at the end, so we ran into this little article over here
Oh yeah.
about the top 5 mistakes when people talk about Azure. And let's see, have we
Right.
made any of these mistakes over here? Well, probably some of us have at some level or another, mainly because of this guy. And I like this concept. The problem, yes. The so-called blue screen. I mean, remember, I think we talked about this. What's the blue screen on the cloud? Basically, essentially
Right.
the East Coast sinking or something. That may be a blue screen, right? That's the
Yes.
closest thing that could happen,
Well,
right?
no, Azure had a problem with their AD,
Oh yes. Oh,
and
that's
no
right.
one could log in for a while.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah,
that's
we have a link to that
it's
in one of our other sessions. So this is like a
right.
callback to that. Go check it out.
But here, yeah, there's another diagram that kind of shows you what software as a service, infrastructure as a service, you know, what they look like and how they feel. Infrastructure as a service is the provider handling your servers and storage and physical. And then, platform as a service, they also handle your operating system and your development tools,
Got it.
right? And then software as a service, hey, it's just there.
Hmm.
So it's kind of cool.
Yep, there it is. So that's another very very quick diagram to be able to explain to your bosses and everyone else that need to understand it. Well, the idea, of course, is we're not really that scared of going through it. You saw that they were wrangling the dragon, but except for the poor PMs, and no one
Right.
was dead.
No, no. And really to move from on-prem to infrastructure as a service is not a technical problem.
Yes,
It's not technically hard anymore. It is completely managerial. You
true,
have to get buy-in from your management.
true. So it's essentially a will. Do you have the will to
Yes.
do a thing? It's not like can it be done? So of course it can be done. The question is, do you want to do it?
Right.
Saying, well, it's sort of like in a little bit to the platform also. It's like, are you okay doing that? Are you okay saying, hey, those guys that you had, like they were, working your data centers overnight and doing all this other stuff. You've already went to the infrastructure stuff. They're not doing that much now. They're just on a computer. They're just running things through a console. Well, even those guys now are sort of going to get a little bit limited. You don't need as many of those guys at all now. Just a
Right.
few that can run automation and everything else because you're just about to go to the next level higher. What happens to them?
Well,
What do they do now? They can't. They don't have any machines to build or anything else. What do we
right.
do?
Well, yeah. What do you do?
What do you do?
They go to work for Microsoft or one of
Uh,
the cloud foundry,
that's true.
cloud
Now,
people,
so here's a
because
very interesting
somebody
thing.
somebody's doing it.
Somebody's doing it. You're right. So at the end of the day, it's like it's not necessarily this is where the horse analogy sort of dies, right? Because in the end, if you were a horse wrangler, you're not going to go to the people that virtualize the horse to find real horses still there. No, they're gone. Forget it. They're gone. However, your skills at that level are still in play. Right, so
Yes.
whatever you had that was doing that, if you find the folks that are doing this at the lowest level, you will find it. But this is not like a janitor type work or anything like that. That stuff becomes even more critical. Even
Right.
though we have like backups and everything else, uh, let's just say if you don't do it right at a very very fundamental level, everything goes wrong. Just like that AD situation that we're talking about over there, where
Hmm.
it's even though it was virtualized everywhere. All it took was one little mistake at a small place, and I think Amazon ran into one of these one time too, where
Oh yeah.
essentially they were
They've all
upgrading something, right?
Right. They've all had issues. I mean,
Yes,
somebody pushed the wrong file, pushed the wrong
put an
button,
incorrect name.
whatever.
They literally fat fingered a value because
Oh.
for some reason they were still allowed to type in something
Yeah.
on text
So
pad or whatever VI.
so let's talk about why someone wouldn't be able to go up to platform as a
Ah,
service.
yes, good,
Okay.
good, good, good.
Specifically, you know, God love them SharePoint people
Oh,
who still write applications that are full trust.
uh-huh.
You're not going on the cloud. You're not going to run in Office 365 with that application.
Oh,
So, you know, infrastructure as a service will still work for you though, because you can stand up a farm in the cloud.
yes,
And yeah, looking down there at the bottom, you can see Microsoft and is at the bottom level there at the platform as a service. They're at the
right,
software as a service level
right.
because Azure is in all three of those spaces. Google is as well, of course.
It's true. That's true.
Amazon.
The poor folks are really here into this space though. Let's go back to our opener where you basically that legacy software,
Right.
that old SharePoint stuff you're doing, the full trust and everything else. The concept is and how do they get there too? And here was the thing. Some people back in the day, and I remember even when I was doing the SharePoint stuff back then, we were sort of telling people, well, yeah, you could do it, but maybe you don't want
Don't.
to do it. We were
Yeah.
suggesting, and I like the way you. I saw the other article you had, but what happened in your particular case, where you basically, when someone asks you to do something and you know it's wrong, but first you explain to them how it's done, and then at the end you say,
Yes.
but that may not be a good idea. You know what they heard? La 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 la. That's what
Right.
they heard. And wait a minute,
Right.
they heard in the beginning. Wait, you told me how it was done. Did somebody record it? Let's do it. But in the end, somewhere where
Yeah.
they glazed off, and you said no, don't do it. In this time, what we start off with is like if someone says, we want to do this, it's as much as it's painful, you probably want to dissuade them from the get-go. Well,
Right.
this is not to your best interest to move in
Just
this. Don't say no. Just say
yeah.
this is not to your best interest, or
Just
this will not
just
help you.
because I agree to help you do this doesn't mean that I think it's a good
Good
idea.
idea. Well,
No, you should not do
you should
this.
not do
Don't
this.
do this.
And of course, there's the
Here's
old
why
like,
you don't do this.
I
Uh,
won't do it at all. Go get someone else to do it.
um,
That's usually the how do we say it, the moral action. But guess what? They're going to find someone else to do it.
yeah,
Someone's
we're
not going to have any qualms
consultants.
and say whatever. We're going to
Yeah.
do it anyway. But here's the thing: when someone tells you it's like it may not be a good idea, give that heed first. And if you're trying to explain, folks, I think it's you start that way. It's like okay, well, we're about to raise a dragon. It's like really. We happen to know that you have a smaller way of getting there. See that little startup? You could be that, right? Why did you want to make hardwares? Well, that's because that's what everyone else did, or that's how my
Right.
dad did it, or that's how they did it to succeed. It's like, well,
Well, I mean, and to be fair, there are times when it's perfectly okay to get technical debt. Just
and,
like,
indeed,
buying a house, most people borrow money to buy a house.
sure
You
enough.
don't want to be borrowing money to get a hot dog though.
There we
Okay?
go. Very good.
And
That's a
so
good one.
it comes down to trying to kind of manage that expectation. What are you actually getting out of it versus what are you paying extra?
Indeed.
Because the interest on technical debt just gets higher and higher. And I mean, there are companies today that are running on mainframes.
It's true. Still,
Absolutely, still.
but
And
that's in some cases it's still okay because they mainframes are actually very powerful these days.
they are. And but when looking at moving off of them, I mean, there's a company that I won't name,
Uh,
but
tick, tick, tick.
but they look every year, and it would cost them X number of dollars, and they can build new software and new products that have a higher ROI
Right.
than that change.
Right.
And so it makes it the right choice. It doesn't make it the easy choice.
Right.
As long as they're going into it with their eyes open, though, and they understand that this technical debt, um, the interest on it is compounding. It's
And
not simple interest.
and they got to pay it at some point.
Right. They have to keep paying it, but uh,
Yep.
so infrastructure as a service, though, everyone ought to be able to get there if there's the will to do it.
Right. So we got will basically that takes you most of the way. The infrastructure is as they say, your first step. Your as they say, your gateway drug. You might as well.
Yes.
You take a look at that with pieces. Easier if you're like taking small bits of yourself and getting out there, but everyone should be looking really going forward, and that's what we try to help folks with. And well, as they say, it's like all we can do is remind them that like, hey, you've accumulated debt. Someday somebody's
Yes.
going to come and come a calling for that.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, and come on, the cloud's been out there for more than how long has the cloud been out there?
Jeez,
What,
about
3
4 or
to
5.
5 years, right?
Yeah, at least.
More than 3 or 4 years. So it's been solid for at least 3.
True.
The lifetime of servers, the usable lifetime,
That's true.
3 to
Every
5
two, 3 years, you're going to have to upgrade, replace, maintain. Just maintenance alone, Windows
Right.
updates and everything else. That's happening like practically every other Tuesday.
Yes.
So I mean, just that alone, you'd think it's like, well, would you not want to have to keep doing that? It's like, well, we need, and then again, that's that top 5 mistakes. You guys can take a look. We're going to post a link on there later. It's like you got to think about it. If it's security that really is truly your concern, then and you're going to say we're not doing it because of security, then perhaps you're not secure now. Very
Right.
likely, because then you didn't really think it through. Because if you think that's not secure, because just simply because, then you didn't do your research, you didn't check, which means if you didn't do that, likely you are not secure. There's something that you're missing. There's someone who
Right.
has your password right now that's probably saying it's like, yes, we don't want that. No, we would never want that. And so wait a minute. Yes, I know I said that, but why am I saying it again and again and again and again? Because guess what? You
It
probably are not
happens
secure.
all the time. I mean,
Oh
and
well,
again, I love the company we work for. They get us good machines.
true enough.
Having worked though for others,
Mm.
I was brought in as a consultant
Yep.
in years past
Yep.
and given a dinky desktop machine
Mm.
that had a 1024 by 768 screen,
Oh
and it
no.
was slow and it was horrible, and it would take me an hour before I could get Visual Studio up and running, and they were paying me a lot of money per hour to sit there and watch their machine, their slow
The slow
machine work.
machine. Exactly.
And your all of your servers are getting old. Your servers are bad. They're probably not running SSDs.
Right.
They're I mean, come on. There's there's a really good reason
There's a really
for
good reason for it. It's like, yeah, well,
for
but I
putting it
love
out
my
there.
vegetables. Yeah, but that's a little stale, those veggies over there.
Yeah,
I know
that's
they love their veggie patch, unless they're doing the zombie garden thing that game out there. It's not going to work. Hey,
yeah.
I think we've like beat that horse to death, or at least we've tamed the
There we go.
dragon over there. So
Yes, sir.
I think that's a good segue to say we're looking forward to the next show. Maybe we'll get into some functions again or something Cody. I don't know.
Right. I was gonna say it's time to get the you know take the pictures off and actually roll up
Yes.
our sleeves and get dirty.
Right, let's do some demoing things. Okay, so that's our next plan. If anyone objects, hereby speak. Speak now or forever hold your peace. All
Yes,
right,
we look forward to your feedback.
indeed.
Please let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you want to make changes other than like kicking me or Ralph off the show.
Yeah, true.
Um, you know, other than that, hey, we're open.
Other than that, yeah, pretty much. That's that simple. All right, so we will leave you with that. Let me see if I got another one here to open up. Let's see. Let me just end with this one over here. Basically, like bing. Who won this one, by the way? I don't think either really. It was not exactly a winner over here. It was more like okay, we see what's there, but in the end, they're just gonna be friends. I think there's gonna be
Right.
like the
I
guy with
think
the flower.
yeah, they're fighting the same battle.
They're fighting the same battle.
They're not fighting each other.
That's true. That's true. So they're actually buddies. All right, buddies. We're gonna let that go, and we will talk to you in the next show. Hopefully next week.
Sounds good.
All right.
See
Take
you, Ralph.
care. See ya. Bye bye.
Bye.